Howdy y'all, welcome back to the channel. I'm James and this is Clearwater Fishing, and today we're talking about slip bobbers. But first we're going to talk about what they are, why you should use them, and how to rig them up. At the very end of the video I'll show a couple clips of me fishing with one. So the very first question here is, what exactly is a slip bobber? I have one here in my hand, and what happens with this is you thread your line through it and have some kind of bobber stop on your line. This prevents the line from going all the way through to unlimited depths and will control your depth. And the slip bobber simply just slips up and down the line until it hits a bobber stop, or it hits one of your weights or a swivel or something else in your line. So it allows you to fish really deep depths versus your normal standard bobber that just clips onto your line. You know, we've all seen these simple, unique, not very unique really, but simple, and they just clip on your line and you use them for pretty shallow depths. These guys are definitely designed to be done deeper, but you can also use them in shallow depths as well. So if you have one that's rigged up on a rod all the time, you don't really need these guys anymore. So what's the advantage that a slip bobber has over your traditional bobber or even vertical jigging? We already talked about a couple versus the traditional bobber. It can go deeper, and this guy can be used in place of your traditional bobber at those shallower depths. Now for vertical jigging, it provides a sight measurement of a bite versus using feel. Some people prefer this method over being able to feel. I like being able to feel because I can set the hook faster than depending on a visual indicator. But that's a personal preference. Another advantage that the slip bobber has over vertical jigging is that you can keep your distance away from where you're fishing. Just having the presence of a boat with a trolling motor, your sonars going on, can disturb the fish and actually shut them down and keep them from biting. I've seen this in certain scenarios, especially in those in-between depths of like 10 feet to 6 foot of depth, where those fish really can feel your presence around them. And lastly, the slip bobber can provide a more controlled retrieve versus casting. You can maintain the same depth because you are having a bobber stop here at the top, and you're just slowly pulling in the bobber here, and you're able to control your retrieve at a much slower pace than that of casting. With casting, you're going to have to adjust your weights, your retrieve, until you find just the perfect retrieve to match your weight. Lastly, when you cast this guy out, it's going to move around much like a traditional bobber, a little bit with the current or the wind, and it's going to give your bait more of a lifelike presence. Now that we've talked about the advantages and kind of how to use a slip bobber, let's talk about how to tie one up. First of all, I prefer a spinning rod. My favorite rod to use with this technique. It's easier to cast than a bait caster, and you can get away with some pretty light stuff. You're going to want a leader that is longer than the depth, max depth that you're going to be fishing. Here I have about 20 feet. And we're going to set this guy to the side because, hey, we're kind of done with the spinning rod because I've tied my leader already, and now I just need the end of the line. So I have my GoPro right here in front of me, and I'm going to show you guys how I rig these guys up as we go along. So first thing is you need some kind of bobber stop. Now some people use pegs. I find that pegs get hung up in my line guides way too often. So I like to use these little pre-made ties that you can buy, or you can use your own fishing line and find out how to tie one of these simple little slip knots here. Nothing too crazy about them, but I like the pre-made ones just because I'm kind of lazy and, well, I don't fish this technique often enough to memorize how to tie a slip knot. So our little tube here has a little opening there. We're going to thread our line through it. You always want to start with your bobber stop. So we're going to thread it through. Give us some distance away from everything because we're going to have to be tying some knots and stuff in here. And we're going to simply pull the tube out. And you can see the tube a little more carefully. The tube's going to fall out. And then you're going to pull the two tag ends that were provided. Then you're going to want to wet it. I always like wetting all my knots regardless of what they're going on. And then we're going to pull it tight. So now we have this little knot that should slide up and down the line very easily, and it does. And all we got to do now, some people like to leave a little extra tag. I don't. I'm going to cut it real quick. I'm going to cut both of these tags real quick. Just like that. And like that. And there's our little peg for our slip bobber. So next you're going to want a little bead. So the little slip knot things, they come in a little package like this. Pretty easy to find around the slip bobbers. I like to use a little different color bead. That way it stands out. So I have these little plastic beads here that we're going to be using today. The bead is just to show you that your bobber stop has made full contact with your bobber. And it also prevents it from accidentally going through your bobber. Let's see if we can find the end here. There's the end. Put it through, just like that. And we're going to take it all the way down to our bobber stop there. And there he goes. It's just going to sit right there. Provides quite a bit of contrast between the two. Next we have bobbers. We got several different choices of bobbers. You have these little foam ones that you can use. We have these more cork-like ones. I think there's solid cork in there. Check those out. Two different sizes there. You have these foam ones that have weights. That's an option. I really don't like the weights because it'll falsely let you think that your bait has reached full depth when it really hasn't. It could be sitting on the bottom while your bobber is still standing straight up. They also have these kind as well, little cylinders. These I think don't hold as much weight as the cone ones. But I know I like these little cone ones. I like this size of cone right here. It's, let me get my scale out. It is roughly from the top of the cone, top part of the bobber to the bottom part here is roughly 1 3/4 inches. So 1 3/4, that's my favorite size there. So you want to make sure that you thread this guy this end first, not this end, because this end is the end that is going to stand up. So go ahead and thread her on through. Take that guy all the way to our bobber stop, and we're almost done here. This rigging up the slip bobber is a really easy process. So we're going to put him to the side there. And next, simply whatever bait we're going to use. If we're going to do a double jig rig, or if we're going to do live bait. If you're going to do live bait, you're going to probably want some sinkers just like this. Some split shots just like these. Sometimes you want to keep these for balancing your weight out on your bobber. If you have a bait that is a little too light or a little, well, it really doesn't help on a little too heavy, but if you have a bait that's a little too light, you can always add a little bit of weight to help balance it out. But today we're using a little 1/16 ounce crappie jig. One of these guys right here. And I'm just going to tie it on. There we go. We're just going to tie it on with a simple improved clinch knot. It's what I typically use for my crappie jigs anyways. It's just a simple knot that has plenty of strength. And there we go. And this is our slip bobber system. I'm going to move the bobber stop down so where it's a little closer. As you can see, you can definitely use it at shallow depths. And all this system does here is just slides up, and our bait's going to sit comfortably below there. If we need more depth, you simply grab your little knot, you hold onto the line, and you pull it deeper, and now our system will go deeper. I'm going to send you guys out to the water, watch a few clips of me fishing this slip bobber, and then I'm going to bring you guys right back here and give you some closing comments about the slip bobber. Okay, so we're in about 12 foot of water. The fish are about 8 to 10. So in order to get the right depth, I like to use my rod length. We're going to make sure the bottom one is kind of even with the end of my rod handle. It's pretty close there. This rod's about 7 foot long. It's actually 6'10", but close enough. I'm pull my drag out about 2 more feet. And there you go. There's about 8 foot deep. Throw it in the water. And let's find our fish. There's our group. They're just on the other side. About 30 feet out. Got one. Finally. It'd help if I was paying attention, huh? Oh yeah, that's a nice slab. Come on, big guy. He's fighting good. Four-pound test, I hate doing that. I want all this information. Let's see if he's worth keeping. He's an 11. We'll throw him in the bucket for a little bit. We got him in the bucket. All right, maybe I can do a little better and actually pay attention next time. He's a good size. I honestly wasn't all that prepared to catch a fish yet. I don't know why. So that fishing day was a really, really tough fishing day. The slip bobber was the only technique that provided any kind of fishing activity. So the slip bobber definitely can save the day when you need to slow down your presentation and put this bait in front of those fish and not disturb them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, smash that like button. If you enjoyed this video or if you learned something from it, hopefully you guys can utilize the slip bobber technique for your crappie fishing needs. And speaking of crappie fishing, I'm going to pop up a couple more videos about crappie fishing right now, so you guys can check those out and learn more about how I approach crappie fishing. We'll see y'all later.